Hey people, what's up? I hope you're doing well. Today's video, I'm going to be breaking down a track that I made in the style of one of my favorite lo-fi artists that goes by the name of Casiio. He has over 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify, and the track that I'm basing today's tutorial off of is his song called Affection, which, check this out, it has over 17 million streams. And you want to know the best part? It's actually really simple to create atmospheric lo-fi that sounds similar to this. I'm not going to play the song just because I don't want a copyright strike on my channel, but I would suggest listening to it before diving into this tutorial just to get an idea of what it sounds like. And as always, if you enjoy this type of content, please do remember to hit that like button, subscribe if you'd like to see future videos, and let's hop right in. And I'm going to go ahead and play a little bit of this so you can get an idea of how it sounds, and then I'll go ahead and break it down. There are only 11 tracks in total that make up this entire beat. And if you see here, one of these is actually just a vinyl crackle sample, and one is a reverse cymbal crash for a riser. And one of the key takeaways from looking at Affection is taking a minimal amount of elements and kind of building them into something that turns into a very atmospheric, kind of encompassing track. And the way that he does that, there are several things, but let's break down some of the components, like the individual components first, and then I'll go into more of the arrangement and overall production techniques. So the first thing that I noticed when I listened to Affection is there's a very warm electric piano in the background for the chords, and it's also pretty wide in the stereo field. So the first thing I did was I grabbed Arturia's Wurli, which is a very nice electric piano emulation. Sounds like that. And I'm just using one of the presets, this Lonely Tines preset, and I think the only thing I changed was I turned the chorus on. Very, very minimal difference, but it does just help widen it in the stereo field a little bit. I'm using thermal just for a little bit of saturation. You can hear it gives it just a little bit of that lo-fi grit. And then processing, I have a band pass here, just cutting off any of those highs and lows that I want to creep in. And I'm using Duck, which I've mentioned several times now, which is my new favorite sidechaining plugin. And I'm ducking the volume just a little bit when that kick comes in. And then as for the chords, pretty simple chords here. I'm only using the one chord. This is in G minor, so I'm using that G minor chord. And it's just the triad plus the root and the fifth duplicated up an octave. And then we come down here to the E flat major, and I'm adding the 11 and the 9 and kind of just making a little bit of a melody here. And then we come back to the G minor again, but this is an inversion, so this is a slash chord as they call it, because this note down here, the F, is actually the bottom note, so the bass note. So it's a G minor over F. And then again, back to that same E flat major. And coming up to that B flat, just to kind of help turn it around back to the G. So that plays through the entire track, just that same chord progression. So the next thing we have here is what I'm calling a box grain pad, and by itself it sounds like this. And a lot of Cassio's production, especially in his song Affection, is very dependent on having something like this that is very atmospheric, and it kind of just encompasses the listener and brings them into this space. And I actually made this pad from scratch using Arcade. So I started off by finding this really nice sampler in the Distant Voices pack. Some really nice atmospheric vocals to start with. And I don't know if it's because I've been producing a lot of house music lately, but I decided to kind of do like a vocal chop melody. So I think it was this. And I just recorded that out to audio. And then what I did was I created this little rack here with Portal, Valhalla Supermassive, and Ableton's Tremolo. And all together now it sounds like this. And then after I had that, I resampled it one more time and time stretched it so it's just a little bit smoother. And then this rack that I added onto there is basically doing just a little bit of compression, Valhalla Vintage Verb to smooth it out and make it a little bit more spacious. And then I'm using Duck on here as well to sidechain it to my kick. And again, like the chords, that plays throughout the entire track. Next, let's go ahead and check out the drums. Casio tends to go more toward the organic side, so you'll hear a lot of kind of foley sounds in the drums. You'll hear a lot of percussive elements, a lot of things that aren't the typical snare and hi-hat. So this is what I've created for my drums here. So really simple, that standard kind of lo-fi kick where we cut off most of the high end. Just gives it more of that thump, a little less aggressive. And what I'm calling my snare is kind of this lo-fi clap. And then on every fourth beat, I have that kind of more wooden, almost side stick hit to emphasize every fourth beat. And then probably the most important part of this drum section here is what I'm calling this paper shaker. And this has a lot of texture, a lot of movement, just an interesting sound. And I can show you guys how I made that using Serum. So I started off just by opening Serum, turning off both of these oscillators and just turning on the noise engine. And if you want to see how you can use Serum's noise engine to make some cool sounds, check out this video I'm going to link above. But what I did was just come in here to the organics and chose the paper bag. I also turned on this filter, so it's a little more muffled and lo-fi sounding. Then I just resampled that into audio, and I chopped it up so it sounded a little bit more rhythmic. So that's just the raw audio that I chopped up and pieced together. And then I created this little rack down here, so a glue compressor just to make sure everything stays pretty even in terms of volume. And then what's really giving it that nice lo-fi-ness is Portal and SP950. So this is with the processing. So that is it for the drums. Next, let's check out the bass. Really, really simple. If you listen to Affection, there is really only a sub bass happening. And I'm using Ableton's synth string bass for this one, which I think is one of the tension instrument presets. And I'm cutting off any of these higher frequencies just to keep it really, really tucked into the background there. I also have Duck on there, which is sidechained to my kick as well. And the only extra thing I'm doing is I set up a return track with Ableton Saturator, and then just cutting off all of those lower frequencies, so we're only saturating the upper end here, just to make it a little bit more audible from smaller speakers. And this is literally just following along, I believe, with the root notes of the chords. And that is the entire bass. Come up here and check out this melody, but I just want to keep something really, really simple here. And I believe I'm just using this preset from Analog Lab, House in the Forest. I guess the most important thing to make note of here is that you can see that if I pull this up with the chords, that these are in the same frequency range, which usually for me is a no-no because I want my melody to be a little bit higher frequency because it's easier for the listener to distinguish the higher frequencies. But what I noticed Casio doing is it's either a combination of filtering the highs out or starting low and bringing it up. And I did a little bit of both here. So this is actually starting here. And then if we come back here when the same melody comes in at the end of the track, you'll see that I actually moved them up an octave. For the bridge section, I have this ARP that I made. It's really, really nice textural element. So to make that kind of sparkly ARP in the background, I actually took a one-shot from Somatics. I created this chord, which I believe is just a B flat, really, really high up in the octave range there. Turn on the arpeggiator. Sounds like that without any of the extra processing. So we're already most of the way there, so that saturator is just giving it a little bit of extra life. We've got this cutting out any of the lows. Halftime, which is kind of giving it that nice darker feel. And then again, Portal with this Tranquility Garden setting, which is really just kind of meshing everything together and, like it says, smearing it all into kind of a cohesive element. So again, I just took that to audio, put it up here. The only thing I did was I added a band pass here, Ableton's echo effect just to kind of make it even more spacey, and another reverb on the channel here. And you can see that this is being automated with quite a bit of movement. And this automation is one other thing that Casio does really, really well. You hear a lot of things being automated. You can hear the filters, you can hear reverb, you can hear gain or volume. That's one really, really good way to spice up a track that has so few elements, is to automate things like this that really actually change the way that the listener is hearing it or the way that they are perceiving it. And then you can see here I have another automation at the very end here. So I have Portal actually coming in at the end to make it a little more chaotic as it comes to the end of the track. And before I play that, I also have an auto filter grouped to my chords and my vocal pad. And you can see that the frequency here is automated the entire time as well. So it starts off pretty closed. So if I start here, so pretty much all of those higher frequencies are kind of hidden from the listener. And this is important to actually start like this and then build it up. You can see it slowly builds here, and it does not open all the way. For the bridge, it comes back down. And then right here before we hit the end, that filter opens up to pretty much let all of the higher frequencies in. And I'll play this all to the end so you can hear all of those changes and how all the automation actually kind of elevates the track to be a little more interesting than it looks just from the parts by itself. Now we have all those high frequencies coming in. We have Portal creating all this nice shimmeriness. Also kind of just helps wash everything together as well. And that is going to do it for this track. So if you enjoyed, if you learned anything new, please do remember to hit that like button. Leave me a comment, tell me what you'd like to see in future videos, and I can work on it. I really appreciate you watching. Take care, and I will see you in the next video.